Hey friends, in today's video I want to talk about the state of Behemoth Titan. I understand that the devs can't make every class useful or strong at the same time. There's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, but this is the lowest Behemoth has ever been, and it's not because of Prismatic coming out and having similar abilities. It's because Behemoth itself got severely nerfed. How did it get nerfed? Well, the overshield you got for farming shards is replaced with frost armor. It gives you damage resistance, which effectively amounts to something close to it, which is fine. But they also hurt the amount of shards you can max out and collect. You need Whisper of Rhyme, I believe, to make that go up to ×8, but normally it's ×6. Rhyme is a 13-second timer. It's like an 8-second timer. Without it, it's not that big of a deal. If you're running Tectonic Harvest, though, you're really running it to loop your abilities by gaining your melee back, and then using Hell of the Storm or that Hoarfrost exotic chest piece to turn your barricade into a row of crystals. Prismatic can do pretty much all of that, especially when you count the exotic class item. But what Behemoth brings to the table is still Tectonic Harvest. It supplies melee energy to your teammates, so if you're running, let's say for example, a Prism Warlock setup where they fly forward with their arc melee, you can make sure they're topped off pretty much at all times. Maybe you run with an Athros teammate. That's what Behemoth brings to the table. I'm really trying to zoom out and look at this objectively, but they ruined the one thing close to my heart, the movement kid in me. Cryoclasm. Take this stream clip, for example, when I first discovered how badly this was nerfed. Control F, cryo. Here we go, we found it. We've had a number of iterations on Cryoclasm since its initial release in Beyond Light, with its current version requiring a sprint windup to activate. While this solved the Behemoth mobility balance issue at the time, it resulted in a state where it's easy to mistime your slide just before Cryoclasm is ready to activate. When I read that, I was thinking, oh, so it's hard to say, I don't want an extended slide, I'm about to slide around the corner, so what do I do to stop the extended slide? You stop sprinting, and then you sprint again and slide. Am I crazy, or does that not just seem like the easiest thing to do? If I want the extendo slide, I hold sprint for a few seconds, I wind it up like this, then I cryo slide. Or if I know I have a cryo slide and it's immediately used, I don't slide directly at my opponent to ram into him, I angle it outward. It's just little things like that, right? So when I read that, I couldn't believe my eyes. To address this, we're returning to a middle ground between Cryoclasm's original release and now. We're removing the sprint requirement, but implementing a cooldown after a single extended slide. So when I read this, there's a couple ways to interpret that. Does that mean you always have the cryo slide, but it just doesn't have the effects of instantly breaking ice and detonating cold snaps and stuff like that? I don't know. So then they say they remove the sprint time requirements, cooldown of 4 seconds. So this is what it looks like in game. It might shock you. So I got my classic, cancel. That one doesn't work. Isn't this harder to predict? Because now you have to play off a 4-second timer. Whereas previously, if you didn't want to extendo slide, don't sprint for a while. If you do want the extendo slide, sprint in place, whip the mouse or controller around, and then extendo slide, cancel around the corner. This shit is crazy. I can't believe this passed. Not to say I approve of the movement jank and the network can't handle it and whatnot, but this just is not intuitive. This is worse. This is significantly worse. And I knew from reading that paragraph that this was a possibility, and it was the worst interpretation of all of them.
Cam, you're not even getting your extended slide. Like,
I know.
Getting it anymore.
And now we're back. Let's talk about Howl of the Storm and Isolation. This is pretty decent for like faking running away from a super, then turning around, freezing the super, breaking some crystals. Oh wait, Cryoclasm's kinda nerfed, so you can't really do that anymore. You pretty much have to snipe them. I guess you could go Diamond Lance, but it defeats the purpose since Prism does that exact same build better. So I made 3 mock builds just to show you the different archetype of Behemoth Titan, and I could make one more with Hoarfrost 2 that is a complete ability looping engine, but it's so much investment. Pretty much what that would do is it would use all of the font mods on each armor piece. So it would have plus intellect, plus strength and discipline, plus resilience, plus mobility, and you could essentially end up with the stat split that is, when you're charged up, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, and 10. It can get somewhere close to that. I'm not even kidding. How does it do that? Boot mod elemental charge, collect a stasis shard, get an armor charge. Then that armor charge activates your fonts. Fonts equals stats. So that's the fourth build that I didn't feel like making, but just know it exists and it's the best at its job. The other half of that is you're sort of reliant on a weapon like Cryosthesia or something that has inherent freeze to get more value out of the subclass, since activating the freeze can yield a Diamond Lance, for example. But that also just works on Prismatic, so kind of a moot point. Interesting thing on Prismatic is if I went Frenzied Blade instead of Shiver Strike, I'd make a Tangle. But that's a problem because it would make a Tangle at the same time it makes a Diamond Lance, and I can't tell the game to prioritize a Diamond Lance. It'll just pick up the Tangle sometimes, and I'll be left there looking stupid when I wanted to kill chain. Let's go over my mock builds. The first one is a hybrid ability engine, utilizing the Font of Endurance to take me up to 10 resilience. 7 is still plenty meta, but the cooldown and, I guess, meta relevance of 10 resilience is really, really good. It uses Elemental Charge and Double Stasis Surge to push my weapon just a little bit farther to a 0.67 time to kill instead of its usual 0.73. What's useful about the ability engines is a trait called Collective Action. So, for example, let's look at this Breach Light. Collective Action can reduce the time to kill, and then when you add Armor Surges, it can push it even further. So for tier 5 and under, you can get your clean 2 burst. And it's like that for a couple weapons. I believe the most famous one is Syncopation. Look at what it's doing at base. Then we add Collective Action, drops to a 0.6. And you can do this from just breaking crystals. So it's kind of like having a pseudo Radiant, but on a lot of weapons, it doesn't shift the TTK against 10 resilience. However, that crit to body shot ratio is still very much appreciated. The next type of build is a Diamond Lance farmer, where you're looking to stop supers with Howl of the Storm, create a Diamond Lance to kill chain, have a Cold Snap to again deal with supers, and it opens up an extra fragment. So I think Rending, by the way, you have to lock this one in because it helps you blow up crystals. You'll see in the gameplay, I link here, that it does come up with how fast you're able to clear the field of crystals. And if for some reason Behemoth ever comes popular in the future, you want Rending in the mirror match so you can break the opponent's crystals a little bit faster. So just to compare the two, this one starts with 10 resilience off the bat. This does not rely on abilities. It's a very selfish way to play the class if you're not building for team, but it can handle supers and it can kill chain. You can grab a Diamond Lance, throw it and slam at the same time, land, pull out the sniper rifle and dome them, start building up that still hunt. There's still really, really fun things to do on Behemoth. I just gotta say, with all those nerfs, it doesn't feel as competitive, especially compared to Prismatic. This is back to our ability engine hybrid. You can see the difference. It's starting to make sense. Now we go to Prismatic. Prismatic fragments. Just for stats. Blessing so I can get my health back on a melee. They did all these changes to Knockout just to apply this fragment. I don't even know why they did that. But yeah, Knockout, it's just so good. I would play Arc Titan for Knockout alone, and now I can have it on a hybrid Behemoth Titan. Then you get Diamond Lance for getting any ability kill. Again, I said I'm not using Frenzied Blade because I don't want to make a Tangle. That's the same reason I'm not using Facet of Solitude. Even though the extra damage is nice, I don't want to make a Tangle. So I put Facet of Protection for stats, but having damage resist when surrounded is also good. Now, the next thing to consider is I could go for something like Facet of Purpose, change my super around to a better super than Behemoth if it were Trials, and maybe get an Overshield on Orb pickup. I can make sure to have Heavy-Handed so that my melee kills create an Orb. The only thing is I miss out on Howl of the Storm. So I would have to use Shiver Strike, which in my opinion doesn't have a counter because the movement's really jank, the network can't keep up with it. You hit them with the ability melee and then you immediately chain a regular melee back to back. The Shiver Strike knocks them back, the regular melee lunges through time and space, and it's just an instant kill combo. The only way you're killing them is if you get lucky with the pellet shotgun or lucky with the slug headshot. Everything else, you're just praying that your counter melee connects and Spoiler alert, it is not going to. I pretty much think Knockout is just locked in because you would have to suffer too many stats to take advantage of Unbreakable. Consecration, maybe. And Drenger's Lash, maybe if you didn't want to go Peacekeeper or Hoarfrost and had some sort of exotic class item combination that took advantage of the Hoarfrost. But I don't even know why you'd want that, because you couldn't break your own crystals for Tectonic Harvest. Maybe you're going to supply that to your teammate who is playing Behemoth. Maybe the combo is 2 Behemoths with 1 Prism. I don't know. I'm just talking myself through all this to kind of make sense of how low Behemoth is right now in the relative PvP meta. So let me know in the comment section what y'all are cooking up, what I could possibly be overlooking. Take, for example, Icefall Mantle. It's 100 HP overshield. Now you can combine it with the damage resist. I don't know how the math works behind that for what effective health you have. Maybe I run that with the sidearm and 10 mobility with the fonts to try to get some crazy strafe speed. I don't know. Maybe I go Cadmus Ridge to try to get a neutral Diamond Lance. There's a lot of options with Behemoth, but even considering all the ones that I rolled through, I just couldn't come up with something that I'm excited to play like I was with the Cryoclasm. The movement version of Behemoth was one of my favorite in the game, despite me saying on the record multiple times, I don't really like the advanced movement in Destiny if the network can't handle it. However, from the user perspective, it's still really fun. And Cryo was much more intuitive in the previous set. And if they're going to leave it the way it is anyway, I don't think it's intuitive. So I would champion to change it. It's pretty much why I made this video today. Bring back Cryoclasm. I will see y'all in the next one. Enjoy the gameplay.
Means no victory. Take them and crush your enemy. Enemy claims Zone C. Zone A captured. more like you.